Bill Belichick's first start, or not first start, his first stint as North Carolina's coach ended in embarrassing fashion, right? Couldn't have been worse. They lost 48-14 against TCU. And I've been telling you guys about Josh Hoover and the boys at TCU for a very, very, very long time. Bill Belichick, I understand that you were a NFL caliber coach and that philosophies on defense, those things, could translate. But as soon as I looked at what you did in the transfer portal, I'm like, this guy is preparing and having a lot of depth on this team and doesn't have a ton of starters. And then enters Gio Lopez. What an embarrassing showing for the Tar Heels. It's not like the Tar Heels have ever been that great at football, but people wanted to act like they were about to be on this resurgence of Nick Saban 2.0 because Bill Belichick and him are best friends and that they remember his glory days from the NFL. Look, he had a great first drive. That first drive was immaculate. The passes were completed. The rushing was good. And I looked at this North Carolina team. I literally wrote down in my notes, that was a pro-style rock'em sock'em drive for the Tar Heels, and this should be a good game. I might be scared for Josh Hoover and what he wanted to do on offense. Was a little bit up and down in the first half. It was. Second half, no contest. TCU came out, put belt to ass. A lot of the catches happening for TCU shouldn't have happened. They really shouldn't have. Some of the rollouts that Josh Hoover had, ice in his veins, had a ton of completions in this game. But it's like, it was weird the way that the DBs were playing TCU's receivers because they almost just didn't finish the play. Right? Josh Hoover will roll out, number 7, he was getting... That kid was amazing. But I think the UNC DBs made those receivers look better than they actually were. Shout out to my man Joseph Manjack, though. If he wore gloves, he'd have a better completion percentage. He's doing the same thing he did at Houston. Hopefully he just doesn't get in any fights with UNC with TCU with his own teammates. But it's neither here nor there. Some of those passes shouldn't have been caught. I mean, time after time, it was just like the DB gave up 3/4 of the play, thinking that it was probably, Josh Hoover's going to roll out. Like, focus on your assignment, worry about what Josh Hoover's doing when it's time to worry about it. I think there's a communication issue on their defensive side that needs to be figured out, and I'm sure Bill Belichick today, tomorrow, and the rest of this week until they play their next game, he's going to be on their ass all this week for sure. It just seemed like the corners weren't in sync at all. And I think like Ty Simpson and Keelan Russell, Gio Lopez and Max Johnson should have a true competition. Look, Max Johnson has had a weird road of football for him, for North Carolina. Going from LSU to Texas A&M, not really fitting into either one of those programs, to coming to UNC last year, transferring in, and then having a really horrific leg injury where nobody thought that, in a lot of cases, that Max Johnson would be playing football ever again. This is the son of Brad Johnson, by the way, quarterback winning coach Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But they should have a true competition. Look, I love Gio Lopez. He's a sophomore. But let Max Johnson ride out his last year eligibility. He looked really good when he stepped in to the game, was able to put points up on the board. And the funny thing about this quarterback competition, and maybe it's just one of the new things for Bill, I don't know if Bill has ever coached a left-handed quarterback. And he's got 2 of them on his roster. And both of those guys started as left-handed quarterbacks. So that's already an adjustment period for Chapel Bill anyways, right? Shout out to Max Johnson throwing, getting a touchdown to his brother Jake Johnson. I thought that was a pretty cool moment. But when you look at his statistics between both the quarterbacks last night, Gio Lopez was 4 for 10, 69 yards and 1 interception. Max was 9-11, 103 yards, 9.4 yards an attempt and 1 touchdown. That touchdown going to his brother Jake Johnson, like we mentioned earlier. They have some struggles in the rushing game for sure that they're going to need to figure out. Man, what if Bill Belichick had Omarion Hampton on this team? Who knows? I just think we should not have expected this we should not have expected much out of Bill's first year being at UNC. Not only from, if you want to use history as an excuse, the players as an excuse, not like the fact that he gives off the same aura that Dion did, but we should have looked at this like the Colorado's first year, right? Yeah, you come to a mediocre team, expect mediocre results, especially your first year, especially the way that you recruited for depth. This is not the NFL. You're not playing a 17-game season where these guys, hopefully your guys stay pretty healthy, but when you build for depth in the transfer portal, maybe this is a second-year thing you're looking at, but the first-year thing, you should have started looking at getting guys like Gio Lopez, actual starters on another team to come down here and play, and spent a little bit more cash to get these guys over. What's the point in bringing your homie to be the GM and we're not accomplishing these things? One parallel that I thought was funny, Colorado played TCU their first year as well, right? Polarizing coach playing TCU. But TCU was coming off a national championship run where they lost bad, and then they lost a lot of weapons in the draft, and they proceeded to get beat down by Colorado. This year, TCU didn't lose their starting quarterback. Remember, Max Duggan was the starting quarterback for TCU. They didn't lose their starting quarterback, and Josh Hoover came in prepared, and we had him as a top 10 favorite. And Josh Hoover did what he was supposed to do. Funny story is, if you guys haven't heard the rumor before the season even started, Bill Belichick was really intrigued with Josh Hoover, and I think he was trying to do everything to get Josh Hoover to come over to UNC and be their quarterback. But hey, it was a hell of a showing for things that weren't shown. I guess if you want to say that. Not a lot was being shown at all in that game. People ended up leaving at the beginning of the third quarter. It seemed like halfway through the third quarter. You never want to see that happen, and you never know what can happen when things get changed. But Max Johnson came in and gave him something to be excited about. I just hope they continue the stretch of good luck, like most coaches need. A lot of this is luck. Look, TCU's linebacking core is one of the better in the country, and hopefully they put it together as well. But they were able to stop the run last night, and I was telling a couple of my buddies, look, they have like a top 15 linebacking core in college football. So guess we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. But shout out to Bill Belichick. But this was a tough one, my man. 48-14. Something's got to give really, really quickly.